So let's play another hypnotic game here. The value of the hypnotic circles, in other words, with more than 2 people in it, is that you get a lot of different type of language to come out, because the way you communicate and the way you communicate and the way I communicate will be very different. And by hearing each other, it expands our reference points as well. You get the idea?
Yeah. Yes.
So what I want to do now is, if you guys switch cards, so you have a little bit of more variety here, and I'm gonna give you. No, I'm gonna step out for the second.
Oh, okay.
For this exercise, is just mix them up a little bit so that they're a different order than we've. No, you keep that. She's had some others already.
Oh, okay.
Just mix them around a little bit.
Okay.
For this next exercise, I call this the Dueling hypnotist. So we'll start off with just the 1 card draw on this one. It's basically the same exercise as the circle, only this time we're going to go right to the center of what you just talked about, this idea of the intention. So we're going to amplify the general impact of what we're doing here. You'll see what I mean in a minute. I'd like for you to stick for the moment to the themes of comfort and relaxation. You can, if you wish, include the idea of eye closure, and you'll see why in a moment. And I want you, when you're doing this, I'll give you a quick example. I might borrow these cards a second. So if we're doing the exercise together, then I want you to lock eye contact in a friendly way, not in a combative sort of way, right? Lock eye contact. Then of course you have to briefly look away to actually see the card, otherwise, peripheral reading is definitely not a skill that I have yet, right? You'll see the card, you'll lock eye contact again, and you'll present your suggestion. But you want to make it so meaningful. The idea you should have inside your mind is you want your partner to melt into a puddle of bliss in front of you. Right.
I think I'm going to like this card.
Say again?
I think I'm going to like this card.
This is a great version of the exercise. And you want to keep that idea inside your mind. So, people often ask me, who's the winner? The one that's left standing or the one that's drooling on the floor? And the answer is yes, because both have something from this one, right?
Yeah.
So you'll be, again, just to give you the demonstration of what it looked like. What's it like when you really relax comfortably deep inside? And you'll wait for an awkward moment, and then they'll take their turn.
What would it be like if you had a moment to close your eyes and relax?
You see how my mind's already going, yeah, I kind of want to close my eyes. So now I'm resisting a little bit, going to keep myself out. Doesn't take many rounds before you literally are, drooling and disappearing. It's a wonderful game. And remember to take those pauses so you have time to impact on each other. That's why we're just doing a 1 card draw for the moment, right? We'll go for the more technical 3 card draw after this.
Excellent.
So whenever you're ready.
Would you like to start?
Sure, I'm going to start. Okay. Janet, realize how beautiful you are, and your ability to comfort and relax will just make you a magical person in this world.
Donna, take a deep breath. You can begin to relax and be comfortable.
It's as if you've gone to that place, that most beautiful, magical place that you know deep in your heart.
I wonder if you realize that relaxation, that comfort yet.
What I need to tell you is that every cell of your body deserves deep comfort and relaxation.
Sooner or later, Donna, your eyes will get heavy and you can close them.
Close to puddle? Imagine.
Okay, I will pause it there. We'll declare Janet the winner of this one. I can see you hanging on by the fingernail right there.
I'm a little mean.
Fun game?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Notice how it didn't take many rounds to get to that point, right? And of course, you could do it more blasé, just raffle through cards, and that's good for just general linguistics type exercise. But really, it's the way that you focus your attention as a hypnotist, as a communicator, that gets the impact, right? And the reason we waited until this point to play that particular exercise is normally we just start off this way just to kind of warm up, and people just talk. But now that we've had all the other warm-ups already, you have the sense of really focusing on the other person, showing them how to experience your idea. And then importantly, you start feeling it inside yourself as well.
Yeah.
You get that?
Yeah.
You like that?
I love it. Absolutely. Yeah.
So why don't you feedback in terms of what your experience was with that?
I would like to give a wee bit of feedback from one step past.
Sure.
When we first began, I was quite nervous. Felt like I was in a television studio and very internally and mentally nervous. And I'm much more comfortable and relaxed.
Funny that, isn't it?
Very confusing.
So you're experiencing exactly what the purpose of hypnotic language is. We've spent so long discussing the theme, the idea of comfort and relaxation, that you are. I could equally spend time discussing the idea of tension and stress and fear. And there are ways to soften that, but overall, it tends to increase tension and comfort and fear, right? There are times when it's appropriate. So I'll give you a quick example. A typical counseling group, right, will be people sharing whatever point or problem they have, you know, whether it's alcoholism or some trauma or other, etc., right? Now, in the initial phases, that can be very, very healthy because people suddenly realize that they're not alone, they don't have to be ashamed, they can get it out rather than containing it in, repressing it and letting it bubble up inside. So that initial phase is very useful. But some counselors get stuck in that phase and they keep talking on about that same trauma 1 month, 10 months, 10 years later, and all that ends up having as an effect is people get stuck in that mindset, shall we say, right? And we're trying to get them unstuck. So it's good to join it initially, but ultimately you want to lead towards that positive language, the one that actually gives them the experience you want for them rather than the one you don't.
Sure.
So is there anything you want to add to how you experienced that last exercise?
Well, I just found it a very powerful experience and how it deepened both my saying what I wanted to say to Janet, how it very powerfully deepened the impact she was having on me. So it's a very powerful tool.
It's a very, very powerful tool. And the important thing here is, and I like the way you demonstrated that, is hypnosis creates a feedback loop, right? And we need to be able to respond to the response of the response and so on. If you break that feedback loop, and this is what people typically do when they internalize too much, then you start forcing things, right? And it can work up to a point, but the problem with that forcing style of communication is that as soon as you've got your back turned, everything you've done will fall apart again. You create a feedback loop, you're creating, and over time of course, you create a system which self-regulates. In other words, it keeps going on its own. You don't have to be there anymore to make it happen, right? And if you are refusing to be impacted by the person that you were talking to, then you're refusing the feedback loop as well. And by this I don't mean if someone's having a psychotic episode that you join them in their psychosis, that, you know, and feel equally stressed and so on. But you've already experienced yourself, you know, when someone is very stressed or very upset, it affects you emotionally also. That's part of that feedback loop going. And if you reject your own emotion at that point, well, it's much harder to talk to that person.
Absolutely.
Right? At that point, this is what I guess therapy is all about, or self-change. You need to work on yourself enough to be able to deal with that emotion inside you, because otherwise how can you expect to deal with it inside them without doing the same damage to them that you've already done to yourself in your own.
And a lot of healing
emotion.
practices believe that very thing. If it's just coming from your head in an automatic pilot, it's not going to be as meaningful for the person as if they get the feeling that you're joining them.
Exactly. And that's a key part of the, should we say, the invisible part of using these cards. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking it's magic's in the language. And there's a lot of psychology and magic in that language, absolutely. But the real magic is in the person, it always was. And we're just trying to, the language that you've created is the equivalent of a lens, right? What does the lens do? It focuses light. If you have no light, it doesn't matter if you have the best lens in the world, it still becomes essentially useless. If you have a weak light, Sure, the lens can maybe magnify a little bit, but it still won't get the result. You're better off having a powerful light, a powerful flashlight or something like that, without a lens. That's what I guess a natural charismatic might be. Than having a very weak light and a powerful lens, right? Or worse still, you have the wrong color light and a powerful lens, because you're just amplifying something less than positive, shall we say. You get the idea?
Yeah.
Any questions for me so far?
It strikes me, a comment more than a question, it strikes me as well that when that person senses you joining them in that way, that again, a lot of their attention, they feel like they have an ally, they feel like they have someone that's really there with them, and like a sacred witness, if you, again, in spiritual terms.
I think that's very important, because you just basically described the first two stages of the ABS formula, right? The more attention you're getting, the bigger that window of opportunity for trance happens to be. Pure attention on its own doesn't necessarily guarantee trance, but it gets very close to it, right? Then that sense of being safe, being respected by the other person, that's one of the maneuvers that will allow someone to quiet down their critical factor, the idea of rejecting ideas out of hand. So once we've got those two barriers out of the way, that last step, the idea of stimulating the unconscious, becomes as easy as just directly asking them to do X or feel Y. You may have noticed that with some people, they just ask you to relax and you go, yeah, thank you, that's right. Other people just ask you to relax and you want to smack them, right? Because one person had all three ducks in a row, the ABS formula, the other person did not, right? So shall we have another game, another round?
Absolutely. If I can just say one more thing, it just also strikes me that this is a beautiful tool that carries with it tremendous responsibility.
Oh, it does. It does that. To quote our friend Spider-Man, actually Spider-Man's uncle, with great power comes great responsibility.
Absolutely.
And this is a very important point. Hypnosis, as I believe, is a force for good. Because it is an amplifier, it intensifies things. Can you abuse it? You can abuse anything, right? You can abuse medicine, you can abuse your car, you can use anything in the way it wasn't intended to. But with hypnosis, you pay a particular price. And that is, it not only amplifies, it amplifies responses. So it not only amplifies a response that you were using, let's say in this way, abusively, it will also amplify the reaction. So let's say you go into a shop and someone kind of strong arms you into buying something. Afterwards you get the classic buyer's remorse, you feel like you're a little soiled and you I don't like that person very much, right? Now, compare that to your best friend for the last 30 years doing something horrible to you, stabbing you in the back, running off with your husband and your fortune and shooting your kids at the same time. Very unpleasant. Of course, that betrayal is much more significant than the one from the stranger, precisely because the relationship was much more, much deeper beforehand, right? And not even that, we don't even have to have that extreme an example. If your friend, or at least in this case would be seen as a supposed friend, forces you to buy something that's good for them but not good for you, and a salesman does that, the salesman, you can go, well, all right, he got one over on me, but that's his job. Well, don't like it very much, but I'm okay with it. Your friend does the same thing. Your reaction is going to be much stronger. So just as there's a much higher responsibility, which is correct, with that is also a much higher risk of, shall we say, the punishment in return if you abuse these skills, precisely because you are reaching much deeper in someone's mind, which means respect is not just something you do because you want to be a more respectful person. It is also something you do to actually protect yourself in a certain degree, in a certain sense, because once you abuse that, it gets very, very difficult to relate to that person again, right? So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So what we're going to do this time round, just to get another little exercise and see if we can intensify the intensity that's already starting to build, is the same game, same dueling hypnotist, so to speak. But this time around, we're going to go for a 3-card draw, right? So you're going to have the cumulative effect of several things. So let's sit back and watch the fireworks on this one.
I'll go first this time.
If you must.
I think you've already won.
Donna, and how will you deeply breathe to relax and find comfort? Just every time you take a breath, you go deeper and deeper into relaxation. A person can, you know, Donna, deeply relax and be comfortable.
Janet, just imagine that you're in that special place, that personal place that only you know, and you're feeling so comfortable and so relaxed. I don't know if you can even imagine that it will go deeper, but it will.
There's no need to blank until. So, well, I'll give you an example quickly. Next time we're in the middle of an exercise, just skip it if it's interrupting the exercise, but for now, there's no need to feel that comfort until your unconscious decides to.
Okay. So Janet, there's no need to feel that comfort and relaxation until you're feeling ready to accept that.
Okay, that was pretty mean. Donna, breathe very deeply, as well as let your eyes get heavy.
That got me last time.
You don't have to be relaxed. Have you ever been this comfortable, this deeply, deeply relaxed?
She's good. I can't go on.
Okay. Notice
That might have been a tie.
that was 1.5 rounds. It actually had the impact much more quickly. Do you notice that?
Yeah.
Because you're accumulating or building a cumulative effect in terms of what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, I couldn't even concentrate on the card. I was too relaxed. Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Is
go ahead.
our familiarity with each other, being that we've known each other, is that a factor? Or
Absolutely.
And so if we were complete strangers, it would still have an impact?
Absolutely. It just requires a few more rounds. Think of it this way. Remember how nervous you were at the start of this whole little session?
Mm-hmm.
That's really an example of how a stranger might feel around you. And not necessarily that they're all kind of stressed and tense and so on, but there'll be a level of tension or stress or wariness because they don't know you, right? And just as the same way as it took you a little while to kind of warm up and feel more comfortable, and of course each round that you've done, it's called fractionation, you became increasingly more comfortable as well, right? So it's called, this is called the law of successive approximation, actually, or the law of compounding effect. These are two slightly related principles. You know, the old saying, success breeds success. So comfort breeds more comfort, relaxation breeds more relaxation. If you want someone to feel relaxed or deeply relaxed, get them to just relax a little bit. In some of the more classical psychology sort of research, there's also partly physiology, there's the old progressive relaxation. If someone doesn't know how to relax, they need to tense up first. So when they let go of that element of tension, it already gives them a direction. This, I can't relax, okay? Then tense, now relax. Well, they can comparatively relax, and that already gives them some direction to go in. So now they've done that, do that again without tensing your muscles. Oh, I get it. And bit by bit, they go towards the success. You're also compounding the impact. In other words, the more you do it, it's kind of like if you are particularly sensitive or have a particular sensitive area of skin, if you get it brushed once or twice, it's not nice, but it's okay. But the more someone pokes it, right, the more discomfort is going to be there, because the accumulation of the sensation increases your sensitivity to it, right? That's kind of what we're doing here as well, right? Does that answer your question there?
Absolutely.
And of course, remember with strangers, you may also need to go a little more slowly. Why? Because they may not feel comfortable about being comfortable around strangers, right? And if they start getting to that too quickly, that can actually create, ironically, discomfort. It's not true of most people, but some people really have problems with strangers or just with the idea of closeness in general, and forcing that on someone, that is not okay, because they won't be okay with it. You're actually harming the relationship. So just because you think a particular experience is positive, and because maybe most of the world will agree with you, doesn't mean a particular individual will agree with that. You never know, that relaxation might have been an onset signal for them for a panic attack in the past, or may have happened before they were attacked in the past, and so on. So now you ask them to relax is being equated by the unconscious as you're about to be attacked, right? This is an example, I'm not saying everyone's like this, but that's part of what the feedback loop is about. If relaxation doesn't work, if you can see relaxation developing more tension, then you go into other areas that are more safe. Maybe nice thoughts, or positive thoughts, or it could be more energy, or something like that. Always take the person at what they're at. So that gets much more advanced. Right now we're just really getting used to the language here, right? Did you have anything to add to the experience you had?
Much more powerful doing the three, but I noticed that when you did the one that really got me the last time, I recognized it and I didn't let it go deeper. So it's like, but then there was something you did this time that just, had me in a puddle again. And I really thought, okay, I'm good to continue. And I turned the card over and I couldn't even read the words.
What you've just described, by the way, is called a conscious-unconscious dissociation. Where your conscious mind thinks having one experience, but really, unconsciously, you have a completely different one. And where the conscious and the unconscious mind conflict, the unconscious always wins.
Yes.
As you notice right there. Yeah, I'm good to go. All right, maybe I'm not.
I think I'm the puddle.
And I was just reflecting again on the actual experience with those three cards. The one card that took a little bit more effort, and you gave an example, and then Donna went right back into it. I only remember that happened just now. It had no impact during the game.
Absolutely, because you're still in that trance glow. It gives you a lot of leeway. The point of this language is it gets the conscious wheels spinning a bit, so they don't actually bite too much and start running off in a million different directions. People, of course, who run in a million different directions habitually will be a lot more difficult to get to that point. They may require, several conversations before they calm down around you. But that's okay, as long as you're in a hurry. If you have to do it right now, then as I think it was John Grinder, as another speaker once said, the only way you can fail is if you give yourself a time limit within which you have to succeed.